观众朋友，大家好，我是 Clarence， 欢迎您收看 Channel 33 2022地方选举特别节目。提起地方选举呢，人们的热情度与参与度相比全国大选都有所下降。但您知道吗？与您生活中很多息息相关的事情，都是由当地的市议会以及地区委员会负责的。所以参与到地方选举中，也是表达您自己意见的一个重要的方式。在我们新西兰呢，地方选举每3年举行一次。包括下一届的市长、市议员和地区委员会的委员都将在今年被选出。今天的特别节目中呢，我们也邀请到了3位候选人，希望屏幕前的观众朋友们可以通过本期节目对地方选举有着更进一步的了解。接下来就让我们一起来认识一下这些候选人吧。
Wayne Brown 曾担任新西兰许多公共和私人组织的董事，也是前北地奥克兰 DHB 主席，还担任过 Far North 地区的市长。
大家好，我是 Wayne Brown， 现在我以票让我一起 fix Auckland。I have a track record of getting things done on time and on budget. With the Auckland Hospital, $500 million hospital, finished on time and on budget. So I want to put a lot of pressure, and I'm an engineer.So understand it, to get things done.
Efeso Collins 现任 Manukau Ward 议员，曾经是奥克兰市议会 Otara Papadoidoi 地方委员会主席。
My name's Efeso Collins and I grew up in New Zealand. My parents came from Samoa in the 1960s, so we're a migrant family. I'm the first in my family. I'm the youngest of 6, but the first in my family to go to university and to graduate from university. I've now been on council as a councillor for 6 years, so I bring experience to this role. I represent Manukau at the moment and am enjoying the campaign as far as getting right across the city to see what the aspirations of all Aucklanders.Craig
Lord 他的本职工作是一名工程师，也是一位自由媒体运营商。在2019年市长选举中，他的得票率排名第3。
Hi, I'm Craig Lord, Mayoral candidate for 2022. I'm an engineer by trade, so I started that when I was 15 years old. My specialty was hydraulic and pneumatic maintenance diagnostics and design. I think is actually really good for the Mayoral candidate.
我们已经进入了后疫情时代，世界各国都在摆脱新冠疫情的影响，并努力地实现复苏。那么，作为新西兰最大的城市，奥克兰的经济应该如何复苏呢？各位市长候选人对于奥克兰在后疫情时代的城市定位又是怎样的？在他们眼中，这座城市需要做出怎样的改变呢？让我们一起走进今天的节目。
Well, I don't think the rankings went up and down according to whether you had a disease or not was particularly helpful. We got to learn the post-COVID lessons. The lessons that we learnt all over the world was that a lot of people want to work at home. We now have got modern. We can communicate with through the internet. Interestingly enough, rural people were a long way ahead of city people about that, because in rural people, the distance to go and have a meeting is quite a long way. In the city, the distance isn't so much. So it took them along to get into Zoom and Teams and those tools, but now they've got them. And people have realised they don't have to go into the city anymore. So the CBDs around the world are not going to be as full as they used to be, no matter how much people want. So one of the things the council is going to have to do is make it easier for office space to be converted to apartments, which will get more people living in the city and will use up the empty offices, because the people aren't going to come back to the offices. No matter how much you want them to, they won't. They don't have to. That's probably the biggest learning from the COVID thing. The other part about now that we're going to open back up for tourism is make the place more attractive. And that means get rid of all the unfinished construction sites around Auckland and get rid of the cars on the port. If you come a tourist visiting Auckland, the most appealing part of Auckland by far is the Waitemata Harbour and the Hauraki Gulf. So you come into the port down the bottom of Queen Street there, and you turn left, and it's very nice, and there's bars and interacting with the harbour. You turn right, there's a pile of cars parked on the wharf and a great ugly car carrier blocking your view of the harbour. That's got to go. Those cars have got to be got out of here. I want to see the harbour and use the harbour. It's a lovely harbour.
It should definitely be an international city where we're no different to Melbourne, Sydney and Vancouver, those kinds of cities, with Singapore even. I think what's important is that people feel like this is a city they can be proud of. And I think what connects Aucklanders is the water. We've got beautiful harbours, we've got beautiful water that we can see. And I think it's the life-giving force of water that gives us a sense of connection to both the land, the water, and the beauty of Auckland. And that's what we should be really proud of. I think that's why a lot of people come here. You know, we're at the bottom part of the South Pacific. People want to see that. We want to be the most livable city, but being the most livable city means we take care of vulnerable communities who've got nowhere to live. So there's important issues around transport, connection, and housing that we've got to deal with. So that's my vision, a city that everyone loves, a city that is desired by thousands. That's what Tamaki Makaurau means, that people desire to be part of the city. And as we care about one another, share what we have, and make it feel like a city that you can go anywhere and enjoy the different villages and communities, that's the city we want to speak to the rest of the world, because it's that diversity that makes us different.
Well, at the moment, our livability has gone from way up here to way down here. So we've got to look at why, what's happened and what's changed. Once we study that and work that out, we can fault find, and that's an engineering thing again. You can't fix it until you've found the problem. So we need to find the problem. We need to go, but every single thing that's changed, and look at it and go, why did it change? Was it COVID or was it something we've done? And so once we've found that, we go, right, we know what the problem is now, we can fix it. Until we do that, it's guesswork. It's like you can't fix the car until you've put it on the hoist or jacked it up to look at the problem. We know what the problem is, now we can come up with a solution. That's the same thing post-COVID.
Well, there's nothing more better than having lots of people there, and people living there is a good thing to do. And you have to make it safe, which just comes back to the first thing, is you've got to reverse all those things that have happened there now. And we've got to get the business association there to spend some of their money, and they've got money in the bank they're not spending and on some security. We'll also talk the government into getting police back on the roll down there. Police haven't got a good record of preventing crime in New Zealand. They tend to come along after it's happened. And the current government are offering help for bollards. That doesn't stop crime, it just reduces the damage. But you need to have people there, and it's got to feel safe and clean. And so if it's safe and clean, people behave better, and then the businesses come back. I'm very disappointed at night. I'm a big guy, but at night I don't feel comfortable in Queen Street. Queen Street shuts much earlier than some other areas. I walked up on a rainy night not so long ago. The buses weren't helpful. The shops were shut, other than down at the bottom of Commercial Bay and Brittamart's fine, but when you walk up through the main street, Starbucks was the only thing that was open, and the only police I saw were a male policeman chatting up a female policeman inside Starbucks. Nobody on the street, other than rough sleepers and beggars. It wasn't comfortable. Oh, it needs to be rethought completely, you know, and the people who've made it like that, the heart of the city, have to accept responsibility for that. They don't deserve to become mayor after you've made a mess of that.
Yeah, we want the inner city to be a very attractive place. I think it's important we remember 44,000 people live in the inner city. So if you're on the bus for free, you can get into the city. So that's nice and easy. That's a good policy. But when you're in the city, you want to experience it. And I think we can open it up to live entertainment, arts and culture. You've got the art gallery there. You've got a big library. You've got the Wynyard Quarter. All of those places are places that are free to visit. There's also a great entertainment life in the city. You can go in and watch a production, you can go in to enjoy different festivals. So what you want to do is draw people into the inner city, give them a really good experience. They'll do their shopping there, and then they'll head back home on a free bus or a free train. That's one way to enliven it. The harder that the city also gets a targeted rate of $20 million a year. So a little bit different from other centres, because this is a big targeted rate. So we should be thinking about how we spend that rate. How do we market the city? How do we make it attractive so people feel like they can come in? it's got to be safe. And I've already talked with you about how we make it more safer. But when you've got local community people in the city, people respect it. And almost a nightlife economy needs to be going as well. You know, lots of people like to go in for a dance, a drink as you're heading home on Friday and hang out with your friends. And I think that nightlife needs to be encouraged as well. I've been talking a little bit about a mayor for the night or a night mayor. And that means someone who's going to ensure that we're safe at night, we've got good public transport, but we've also got a lively entertainment part of the city going to. So all of those things are going to make the inner city a really attractive place for people to come to. I think Queen Street in the long term is probably one of the places we want to pedestrianise or just have vehicles, service vehicles using in the buses. One of the things you find from overseas jurisdictions is when you have more people walking through them and cycling through them, it actually draws a whole lot more people. But what we've got to do is plan around it better. So if you are coming in by car, there's somewhere where you can park and then you can walk into the city. And the city centre master plan actually talks about pedestrianisation, opening up greenways between Albert Park through to Victoria Park. So the more we can experience by foot, that means we're going to stop at stores. We know that from the Melbourne study, the Catriona study in 2018, that when Melbourne was doing it, you actually saw an increase in the number of people who were going into retail stores, and they saw a 20-30% increase in their business turnover. So I think all of those things are positive. We've just got to take the city on a journey, because I think some people still prefer to use their cars, but when we understand that when you get off the bus that's nice and close to where you want to be on Queen Street, then you can enjoy it. Similar to that frame we had for recently. I just think all of those things make for a great experience, but we've got to get more people into the city.
There are some obvious things, like, say, the CBD, we'll pick on them, but every suburb has had the same problem. But we'll just pick on the CBD. So many businesses shut down through the lockdown. But it wasn't just COVID that did it. And COVID, to me, is just something that's accelerated a lot of the problems that were already existing. So we've got to change the mindset, I think, of how businesses operate in Auckland. And it starts with the CBD. So the question has often been, how are you going to fix the CBD? Because that is meant to be the heart of the city, and it's where everything comes from, and the vibrance. But it's not anymore. It used to be. It's happened in Newmarket, it's happened in Queen Street, it's happened in other areas around Auckland where the local shopping mall is destroying that small little village community. So we need maybe businesses, people to put up their hand and say, actually, I'll start a boutique style business that isn't in the mall, to bring those suburbs, to bring it back. And maybe we need more cafe style family restaurant cafes, although they struggle and people are scared to start them now, hospitality industries. We need people to be entrepreneurial, come up with their ideas and go, I know what sort of business I'll start, I'll do it there. We've lost things in little villages like the local butcher. There's some are still around, but because people just go to the mall or they go to the supermarket now. So we've got to come up with ideas to help people get their businesses going. And if they want to start a business, not make it hard for them. We've got to make it as easy as possible. And that's how we have to change the mentality. People have got to think in different ways to make their community work. If not, all of our little suburbs will disappear and it will just be malls. That's all we'll end up with. That'll be sad.
Yes, and the answer is obviously yes. We've had 10 years ago, the city owed $5 billion. Now it owes $16 billion. It loses $3 million a week, which is $1 billion a year. You can't keep on borrowing. As President Reagan said in America, you can't borrow your way to riches. You only borrow your way to trouble.
I think there's a common story that people think council is irresponsible. I think we're really prudent. If you look at it, Standard & Poor's, which is a credit ratings agency, we have a AA rating. We are just below the government. So I think people should look at that rating and think, council's been really responsible. In this term alone, in the last 3 years, we've managed to save nearly $450 million. Through COVID, we lost nearly $1 billion in revenue, yet we've been able to save, through efficiencies, $450 $50 million. And I think people should be aware of those good stories, because that shows that we're doing everything possible so that people don't feel like we're wasting their rates. And that's a really important message. We're doing really well. We have a debt to asset ratio of 18%. So just so that people understand that, if our mortgage was $100,000, we only owe $18,000 on our mortgage. And I think that's a really good position. I don't know many people that have that kind of debt to asset ratio for their own mortgages, but it gives you a sense of where council has been in making sure that we're thinking about how we run how we manage our finances. So I think it's very prudent, very responsible. Yes, there's still parts where we need to tighten up, and I will be looking for those parts, but I hope people can look at what we've done at council and know we're not about to go bankrupt tomorrow. People can trust that we're doing the finances in a way that's prudent and responsible.
The finance group in there, the committee, they've done a very good job recently on trimming some of the big ticket items. But to me, they're the things that you or I would do every day in our household budget. We'd compare insurance plans, we'd compare phone plans, and we'd go, well, I'm going to change provider. You compare electricity plans, I'll change provider. So they've done that, and that's good. It saved a few $100 million. Nice. But it's those tiny little inefficiencies that are going out the door every day. A $10,000 invoice here, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And when you work in a big operation like it is, those numbers start to mean less. And so I'm not upset with the staff that are signing it off, because they probably don't realise that when they sign off a contract for a roundabout or a footpath repair or a repair to a public toilet or whatever it is, and it's $40,000, they probably go, okay, it's $40,000, well, fine, yeah. It needs to be inspected and analysed and re-looked at and go, well, it's only a $5,000 job. So it's those little things. The old saying is, if you look after the pennies, the pounds take care of themselves. Very old saying. Of course, now, so if you look after the cents, the dollars take care of themselves. And that's so true in any business, We have to do the same. So we find that mismanagement of funds, why things are being given out and money's just going out the door. It could be consultation fees. It could be overpricing of jobs. It could be servicing. Whatever it is, we've got to find it and stop it and change it. That's where we save.
Well, it's a good question you should ask all the other ones, because, in fact, I'm the only one who's ever been in charge of $1 billion organisation, and I've been in charge of 4 of them. So I know how to do it. So whatever anyone else tells you, they don't know how to do it. So I know exactly how to do it. And it starts at the top, and you start cutting at the top, not at the bottom. If you ask the chief executive of any organisation to cut costs, they cut services and cut the people doing the work at the bottom. You've got to cut the people at the top, not the people at the bottom. And it sends a lesson. And you have to tell everybody in there that when you spend money, spend it as if it's your money, not somebody else's.
I think there's a number of parts that need to reform. Firstly, we need to strengthen our connection with CCOs. I think most Aucklanders don't believe that they're getting the best deal out of the CCOs. So Auckland Transport, Eke Panuku, Tātaki Auckland Unlimited, how do we make sure that those organisations are responsive to the people of Auckland? That needs to be shifted. I think it's also important that people feel like they're connected to their councillors. Often it's hard because we're in meetings a lot of the time, but there's the odd time where people want to feel like, I can go and visit them locally. I don't have to go all the way into the city. I can just visit them locally. People want that too. But what they've also been telling us is they love the libraries, they love the services, the community halls, the gyms. All of those things that we provide, we've got to enhance those services, because that's what brings communities together. So definite things to watch, definite things that are on my radar for us to look at. But I think in the main, we're on a good trajectory. Let's just make sure that it's one that all Aucklanders can buy into.
I think it's time to flick the switch on that. It's no longer a business district like it used to be. It was all business with some shops. Now it's some business, because most of them have proven they can operate outside of the CBD. They don't need to be there. So what do those landlords do with their properties? And we've got to come up with some ideas and turn the CBD into a civic district, where we can go to, instead of saying we'll go to Queen Street for shopping, we say we go to Queen Street because it's full of cafes, restaurants, places for the family to take kids to, museums, artworks, adventure playgrounds and buildings. I don't know. It's up to these landlords to go, what can I do different with my building? Do I turn it into an apartment block? They could do. That's fine. Do they turn it into something family orientated? They could do, but that's up to them. And that's where the change is going to have to happen, because shopping has changed. It's so different now. The mall, hey, even Queen Street has got a mall now, right? Down the bottom, there's a mall. So all those shops up that Queen Street trip are going, oh dear, well, they're just going to go to the mall. I might as well shut down. So major changes are coming. We have to change with it, and we've got to come up with different ideas for the community, suburbs and villages, and the CBD. The CBD, a park-like atmosphere, I think, is where it's going to end up. And that's cool. We just somehow got to make it work. To make the city's finances better post-COVID, I think is solving those inefficiencies I was talking about, where our money's disappearing. We solve that. We make Auckland Council operate properly like a business should. It will then make the city run properly like it should, so the citizens can go about their daily lives, their work, their life, their play easily. If we do that as a council, I'll consider that successful, because then people can get on and they can start their business. They can go about their everyday life. That's my goal. Get the council working properly, the city will work properly, then everyone can just go about do their own thing.
No. So if you don't want me now, you've missed your chance. I'll go back to making money.
Oh, we'll see. I've got lots of things. I used to lecture at the university, and so I miss the classroom. I enjoy working in local government, but I've got multiple opportunities available to me. But if things don't work out, I'll be really disappointed, but we reset as a family, and I think it'll probably be back to the classroom for me and back to lecturing. But I'm committed to this race. I'm committed to winning, because I'm committed to a future for New Zealand that's sustainable, it's just, and it's focused on our children.
It depends how I go. Look, I started this back in 2018, and it was always a 4-year job application. And as a complete unknown, nobody knew me back in 2018, 2019. The media never spoke to me, very rarely. But I still finished third, because the message I was putting out hasn't changed. It's the same message I'm saying now. But I used social media, and that told me that there was a reach out there, that people who heard what I had to say agreed with me. So that was when I said, yes, cool, I'll continue this 4-year job application. I think I'll have to reanalyse the results again, and if I don't win, no, I'll win, but if I don't win, I'll have to look, where did I finish? Did I not have the right message this time? Did I still only got the same amount because those people agreed but everybody else didn't? That will determine, really, whether I run again. It's all down to the people to tell me. If I was close, I'll go, right, yeah, the message was there. Do I just need to get it out more, or was the message wrong? That's the decider.
听了3位候选人在经济上的观点，还没有投票的您做好最后的选择了吗？我们对于奥克兰市长候选人的4期特别节目在这里就告一段落了。如果您错过了之前有关交通、住房以及治安的节目，欢迎您前往我们的 YouTube 官方账号观看。那么节目的最后，让我们来听听3位候选人为什么认为自己就是奥克兰的下一任市长吧。
I am the best candidate to be the mayor because I'm the only one who's had experience with really big budget organisations. I have fixed 4 that turn over more than billions of dollars and more than 10,000 staff. I know what I'm doing. This is not promising of someone who hasn't done something big. If you haven't been in charge and led a big organisation, you are dreaming if you think you're going to make a job of running the Auckland Council. The staff will run rings around you. The staff won't want to be told what to do by somebody else, but it's time they were, and I'm the only person who can do that. And I want to do this for the benefit of Aucklanders, not just for me, not even for me, really. So with your vote and with your support, we can fix Auckland together.
Well, thank you for watching. And I think the reason you want to vote for Efessel Collins is because we want a future that's going to address our climate action, mitigation and adaptation responsibilities. We want a future that's just and sustainable for our children, and a future where we feel like we've contributed. This is our city. And we also want a future where there's going to be good financial management. I offer all those things. I'm a collaborative leader. I'll make the courageous steps, and I'll make the connections with overseas. We've got great relationships with our sister cities like Wonjo and other parts of the world. Let's strengthen those relationships so that Auckland isn't just here where we are now, but as a city we take to the rest of the world. So vote for Efessel Collins.
The reason I think I'd be a great mayor for you is I'll bring common sense, practicality into office, and that's been missing for a lot of years. I also will bring communication, the ability to tell you exactly what's happening all the time so you know what is going on inside council, the actual operation that is meant to run the city for you. So if you vote for me, Craig Lord, that's what I'll bring.